Ladies and gentlemen, the Batman is upon us. Oh boy, this this has been a long time coming. After all the stuff that went down Batfleck and Ben Affleck, it felt like we were never going to get a Batman movie, and then we got something really, really special. Um, let's get into it. Jesse, I saw this with you in the
Yes,
cinema.
we saw it together.
What are your overall thoughts on the Batman?
I thought it was brilliant. I really, really enjoyed it. I thought all the actors brought their A game. Robert Pattinson, I felt worked really well as Batman. And I like the fact, I know you had a problem with this, Matt, but I like the fact that it was more of a detective noir story compared to a
No, I love
superhero
that.
story.
I
Because
love that. I love that, actually.
I've said before, Batman is one of the few superhero movies that I can watch and enjoy. I can't really enjoy other superhero movies, except for maybe Deadpool. I can enjoy Deadpool because it's more of a comedy. So I like the fact that it was more detective, more noir, which is my sort of thing, and I was really digging it. Gave me like the Riddler gave you Zodiac vibes with the the letters and the encryptions and and the mask. Um, yeah, and I enjoy all the performances. The only thing I'd say as is a criticism for me is it was too long. And I know people have said, no, it flies past. It's not long at all. It was too long. They could have cut other scenes with the Riddler. I thought they could have cut out, and then there were scenes, couple of scenes, one or two scenes with Batman and Catwoman. I thought they could cut out as well. So it's just a bit too long for me. I thought they could have just sliced it down a bit. And then one of the other weird things was you almost only see Batman. You very rarely see Bruce Wayne. Robert Pattinson as Bruce Wayne. He's almost always Batman, which I don't have a problem with. It's fine, but it's kind of interesting because usually you get when you saw the Dark Knight movies, I felt like it was more 60% Batman, 40% Bruce Wayne, whereas in here it's 90% Batman. But yeah, just something interesting to note. I felt, but I loved it. I loved the cinematography, the tone. It was very gritty and dark. It's the darkest and grittiest Batman I think we've gotten. I still wouldn't put it as high as the Dark Knight. I still think that's the best Batman movie ever made. It's really high up there. It's a really, really solid film. I felt so.
Yeah, if you want to check on TikTok, I posted my personal rankings of the Batman films. I put the Batman as my number two. I rewatched Dark Knight the other day, and I do think there's a lot of aspects that I prefer. If you are comparing them, like you just can't beat Heath Ledger's performance at the end of the day, and that type of film, I think, is also a bit more accessible, which is my biggest criticism of this film. Well, it's actually not really a criticism; it's just a note. I think for people who like a dark and gritty story, this is really good, or a detective story. But I think for mainstream audiences who are used to watching like a Marvel film where it's light, it's funny, it's got fast pacing, it's a 4-quadrant film that's built for that's trying to appeal to so many people. This movie digs its heels in and goes, no, this is what the fuck I am. This is what the story is, and take it or leave it. And for people who want something that's like that, they're going to love it. But if you're used to something a bit more light, this movie is not for you. Sorry, Jesse.
So just one more thing, just before we pass it over to 80. The only other criticism I have as well is I wish it was MA, which is R in America. I wish there was. I felt like it kind of cut away a bit from the violence. I wish it just, put the boot down and just went for that blood and a bit of violence, or it felt drawn back a bit. And I get it because it's more accessible to a wider audience. I understand that, but I wish I reckon it would have been to the movie's benefit if they just went with that bit of extra violence, grittiness instead of just cutting away. But overall, this is just real nitpicky complaints.
Yeah, I think I don't see Warner Brothers ever willing to do that for Batman, just because at the end of the day, they want to sell toys. But to your point, they're halfway there. Like this film gets like some of those Riddler scenes, like with the phone, they're so torturous and psychologically fucked up. I would argue like some of those scenes are way worse than showing a little bit of blood or a dismemberment. Like I saw a lot of like Mortal Kombat video games as a kid. I turned out fine, but you show me something where someone is it's debatable. But when you show like some of the psychological helplessness like some of these victims have, I'd say that is way more like mentally scarring than a little bit of blood or some boobs here and there or something. AD, I will come to you soon, but I'm holding you off because I have a feeling on some of your comments, but I could be wrong. So I'm just gonna quickly dive into some of my thoughts. Just touch on what Jesse said. I love the cinematography in this. I love how stylized it is. I will say I did not love the car chase. I think it was interesting to see how they did the lock. Yeah, okay. I don't love the way how it was really dark. At times I had trouble sort of telling what was going on. You're talking about the one with the penguin,
right?
Yeah.
I love that. I thought it was fantastic.
Well, I think it's great that I did it practically, but Nolan also did a car chase practically in Dark Knight. And with that, I was more aware of spatial awareness.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's cool that, he locked a camera into the car, but like, I feel like 50% of it was that. And it sort of bogged it down for me. I feel like it was during the daytime and it was better lit and they had a few more shots. I would have enjoyed it a bit more. It was still great. I'm like nitpicking here, right? Because I love this movie. This is my second favorite Batman movie ever. But that one could have been a bit better. But what I will say to compliment that, this has the best fight scenes in any Batman movie ever. Hands down, it comes nowhere close.
See, Adrian cringing there.
Well, hear me out, all right? In most Batman movies, he has such a stiff suit. He can't flex. He can't even turn his head. And I would say that's one of my big criticisms of most Batman films is the action scenes are usually not that great. Now, some of them in this movie I feel like are a bit too short, and I would have liked them to be a bit longer. But when I could see his fluid motion, he's doing kicks and he's fighting, I buy it. I'm a little bit more entertained. I want to touch on one more compliment before I throw to you, Adrian. Another thing I love about this movie is, so generally speaking, I don't like Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne is, I get the point of him. He tries so hard to put on, like his mask is Bruce Wayne, not Batman. He tries so hard to be this perfect, normal person. He's like an investment banker type guy where he's like super perfect and put together. That it's secretly his eyes are dead and he could be a serial killer, which is probably why Christian Bale did such a great job. But I just don't find Bruce Wayne very relatable. He's a billionaire and he's also the world's best detective and martial artist and he's bad at nothing. I just find a very unrelatable character. So I love Batman, but I hate Bruce Wayne. But in the Batman, they're like sort of fuck all that. First of all, the Batman gets a riddle wrong. And I was like, oh, that's nice for a change. But the main thing is he's a broken man. He's depressed, he's emo, and it makes a bit of a depressing film, but it makes it more believable because when they set up some scenes where it's like he acts like he doesn't care if he dies. And so he goes in and the stakes are a little bit higher for me now because he's going in like he's this unhinged billionaire who can do whatever the fuck he wants. And when he goes into fight, I have a feeling, he could lose this fight. He could fuck up because he's just unhinged. He's not stable mentally. And when you see like Alfred sort of like worrying about him, every Batman movie has a scene where Alfred worries about Bruce. But this is the first time for me where I really buy it because I'm worried about Bruce too. He's clearly unstable. He's not okay up there, And that makes him, I think, my favorite Batman because one, it's a bit more interesting. And two, it weirdly raises the stakes a bit. Now, I don't know if that'll be the same case moving forward because by the end, he's got a bit more hope in him. and stuff. But I really like that aspect of this film. Adrienne, what are your thoughts on the Batman?
Okay, I just want to start with there was plenty I liked about it. There was. But I'm going to go through that first and then go through what was lacking for me, because this was my most anticipated movie of 2022. So I was extremely, like I was literally screaming in the car on the way there. I could not wait to go and see this. I went to 3 different cinemas until I got a seat with my sister. So really, really excited. Packed house. And so what I loved, I don't know, for some reason when I say my opinion on this, people assume somehow that like I haven't been like researching the crap out of it. I loved that it was neo-noir. I was wanting that Joker version of Batman that we got, really, really incredibly dark, gritty, almost depressing and disturbing. Like Joker left me for like a couple of weeks feeling really kind of violated. And that's what I was hoping to get out of this film. And I did like the fact that Gotham had that portrayal. I thought that was pretty perfect. Like hit it on the head. I did love the cinematography. That was probably my favorite aspect technically of the film. My favorite shot was at the end of the chase scene with the upside down shot of Batman coming towards Penguin. I did really enjoy that.
That was awesome.
That was really cool.
Yeah.
Like that was straight up my favorite. I did though. There was one shot that I thought was super cheeseball, which was where we had the GoPro style on Batman's head when he had just jumped off. I don't know. That just really was weird for me. It looked a bit cheap compared to the rest of the film, but I really liked.
There was a couple of those in there.
Yeah.
You're right.
Just random.
I didn't like them either.
Like super
sorry to
random.
interrupt you.
No, that's fine.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I think it is good to mention the problem with also any superhero movie, and I feel like Batman has the worst case of this, is whenever you get him doing something normal, and if you don't film it in a real stylized, cool way, it can look goofy as fuck.
Yeah,
and there are a couple of shots where it's like when he's walking into a detective scene, sometimes he looks really cool, but then sometimes it's like, oh, there's a guy in a Halloween costume here.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
That GoPro shot is probably the worst offender.
That was for me the worst offender. It may have been the first moment that took me out of that constant, like, I was visually pleased the whole time. Like, even if there were dips for me, I at least was intrigued the entire time by that. But that one like really threw me off. It was so random. But after the cinematography, my next favorite thing was definitely the casting. For me, Colin Farrell stole the show. I actually completely forgot that it was even him. I completely spaced on it the whole film. He was amazing and one of my favorite villains I've seen in a long time. One that we haven't seen in a really long time either. Loved him. And Zoe Kravitz, I really loved her as Catwoman. I think she's so badass and just she fits the bill perfectly. I suppose they're like my favorite things about the film. So I was really, really keen because Matt Reeves directed two films I love, 10 Cloverfield Lane and Let Me In. And I was really excited for things to get dark and suspenseful and intense. And it just didn't get there for me. Like, I thought that the script was lacking for a lot of the time. Like, I felt like maybe Robert Pattinson didn't have that much to work with and neither did Paul Dano, because I love both of them a lot and I really, really respect them as actors. I think with Rob, he's sort of, I don't know like how it came about, but for me, he played one tone for the entire film. And similarly to what one of you said earlier, where it's like you mostly see Batman and not enough of Bruce, maybe that is where I felt I was not able to connect to him or root for him. Usually, like with any other Batmans, like you're like, fuck yeah, you know, like you do this, blah, blah. I just didn't really care about him at all. I felt like he was the least intriguing part of the film for me. And I love him. I love Rob. Absolutely adore him. I don't know. I just felt really let down by his performance. And then I felt like with Riddler, Paul Dano, sometimes when it was like finally screen time for him, his scenes dragged on a bit too much and it made them really awkward and a bit laughable sometimes. And I've said this before, he's, I think, one of the best actors of his gen. He's incredible. But there were some points where I wanted to be as disturbed as I was with Joaquin Phoenix as Joker, and it just felt a bit farcical to me. And I feel like he was let down somehow because I've never seen a performance of his that I wasn't blown away by. I don't know, maybe it was him being really choppily exposed throughout the film and then having large breaks in between. Not sure, but there were a lot of people in my cinema who did laugh, which really pissed me off because I hate when people do that and they're not supposed to, but other people sort of felt it too. So that for me, I just found that there was little emotional journey from Batman and maybe even from Riddler as well, and I just couldn't connect to them. And then I just felt like it played it too safe, like Jesse said. The fight sequences for me were few and far between and really short-lived. I was so keen to see Batman beat the living shit out of people. Like, I wanted to see all of it, you know, like make me not able to sleep at night. And it just didn't happen. So I was like waiting and waiting and waiting. And it's sort of like, I don't know, the movie for me was like going to my favorite restaurant, ordering my favorite dish, and all the ingredients were there. They were all cooked pretty well, but there was no flavor. And I was really upset by that. So the lack of action, the fighting, I thought it was frustratingly safe, and it left me pretty bored for the most part. And like, no one has to explain to me anymore that it's neo-noir, blah, blah. I totally get it. That's what I wanted though. So you know what? I'm going to watch it again. I'm going to give it a second watch. I don't know. I feel disappointed, unfortunately, on an emotional level. So, yeah.
Look, the Riddler comment, I'm hearing a lot of people saying the same thing. Personally, I never felt that way, obviously, except some people laugh when like it reveals that while preparing, he was like doing a sort of a back-end YouTube type thing. Obviously, that might get a few laughs, but I never felt that way personally, but I understand a lot of people else felt that way, so fair enough. You had a comment about how I feel like there wasn't enough Bruce and stuff, and I actually leaned over to Jesse maybe 30 minutes into the film, and I was like, it's weird how little Bruce we're getting.
Yeah.
Because at first that's how I felt, but what I love about this movie is it sort of is making you wonder. This is my interpretation.
Yeah.
That they were kind of like making you wonder, who is the man behind the mask? Who is Batman?
Is the Batman?
And and you start learning a bit about him, and the way that the Riddler storyline ties into his family, I love. Like, I was just talking to a friend the other day saying my favorite Batman stories are the ones where Bruce Wayne is personally entwined with whatever Batman's dealing with. And they're very rare. They're not a lot of stories like that. Like The Dark Knight, you could take out a bunch of the Bruce Wayne scenes and it probably, it might work a little bit. It might, but like it sort of works without Bruce Wayne. Batman does Batman, Bruce Wayne does Bruce, and a few things happen there and here and there. But I find the most interesting Batman stories like when that ties into him. So it ties into like his mother and all that stuff. That gets me really emotionally invested and really excited.
That's what I
there's a few
was
other
like
Batman
waiting
stories.
for. Like, that would usually hit me really hard, but I don't know. There was a disconnect. Also, really quick
for me, I think.
No, go for it. You go.
I think they gave me breadcrumbs and then it led into it. And then for me, it sort of came. And the moment where I felt fulfilled, like I felt pretty happy with it. I was really interested in this new Bruce, but the thing that made me go was the moment where, the whole movie, he never calls himself Batman. They just go, who are you? He goes, Vengeance. Yeah. And then at the end, when there's like a Riddler guy and goes, who are you? And the villain is like Vengeance, and he sort of realizes, what I'm doing, I'm not that different. Like for me, that single moment just completed the arc for me, and that moment was like really. I thought it was really good writing, and that was enough for me to satisfy that itch for me.
I have a question for you guys. So I was left fucking blindsided by the kiss. I'm so sorry, but where the fuck did this sexual tension come from? I did not pick that up whatsoever. Like, she didn't know his name. They barely had any conversations about him at all. I get Catwoman can be sensual just for the fun of it, right? Like, that's what she can be like. But what, like, they kissed twice, implying that there's actually a romantic connection. I was way fucking lost on that. Was anyone else like felt that way?
Oh, so you go.
I don't know. I kind of bought it. I thought they had good chemistry together. I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't think like the. Yeah. I don't know. Because I remember you telling us probably about a week ago, 80, that you didn't buy it or something like that.
I don't know where
I thought
it
their
came
chemistry.
from.
I thought the chemistry was good. It was all in the body language. I know I got it. Like, it didn't seem weird to me personally.
Okay.
She did kiss him with like they weren't talking, they weren't flirting. She was just, it was like, hey, what are you doing today? Oh, nothing much. The weather's pretty good. Yeah, kiss. It was there was no lead up, I feel, build up to it. So I sort of see where you're coming from.
Then at the
For
end,
me, it's like, I just expected it.
She asks him to like run away with her, which is that's not a little thing to do. Like, that's pretty significant. And I just was like, I am so lost. Where the hell did this storyline come from? I don't know.
If someone said that to me on Tinder or something, I would be like, whoa, you're coming a bit strong.
Whoa, yeah.
But I guess they did just save Gotham together or whatever. I went in kind of expecting that to happen because that's what always happens with Batman and Catwoman. But I will admit, the chemistry wasn't super strong.
I don't know. I felt like the writing between them just didn't build enough of a foundation for. Even my sister was next to me and she was like,
"Yeah, it felt a bit forced." Yeah,
yeah.
I think it was a little bit forced. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, you want to say something, Jesse?
No. I bought it, so I don't know. I guess just different interpretations of their. Yeah. Oh, can I just say as well? I'd have to totally agree with 80 about. I've got to mention Colin Farrell as the Penguin. I almost stole the entire movie. He was so good, and you couldn't even tell it was him. You really couldn't even tell it was him. He just disappeared into that role. And I love this scene. I just wanted to give a special mention as well. Probably one of my favorite fight scenes of the whole movie is the very first major fight scene at the train station.
Yep, that was, I reckon, the best.
Where you hear the footsteps and the camera's just shot this like dark alleyway, but you don't see anything, but you just hear these footsteps and then he just like emerges. That was probably possibly my favorite scene in the whole movie. I thought it was so well done.
Agreed.
Yeah. There are some moments of this film that legitimately feels like it's taken out of a horror movie. Like some of the Riddler stuff, but also just, especially in the first act, the Batman stuff, they really dive into the fear aspect that he puts on criminals. And I think it was the best. I've looked throughout the whole film. Did they really put it in well? Maybe not, kind of mostly in the first act, but it's the best way I've seen it done with live action. I really love that aspect to it. It's also my favorite live action Batman suit, I gotta say. I think it looks great.
I did really like the suit. I really liked it.
It's really about Colin's performance as the Penguin. I remember before this, because they've announced ages ago they're gonna have 2 spin-off TV shows, which seems so excessive. And they said he was gonna be, I think, a major part of one. And I was like, this is a bit much, isn't it? But after seeing it, I was like, I would watch that every week.
I would. I'd watch it.
I don't know, man. They've made weirder spin-offs about even more relevant stuff, honestly. I mean, I saw today that they announced a Negan and Maggie from the Walking Dead spin-off show from the Walking Dead.
What?
I was like, what the fuck?
Oh
like,
my
Walking
God.
Dead, just give it up. Seriously.
Yeah.
Like...
they just recently cancelled this spin-off, but they were going to do a TV show spin-off of Aquaman. I think it was called like Deep, and it was just about like the city of Atlantis or something. Oh, it was about like the Mariana Trench. I don't know, but like Aquaman wasn't going to be in it. And it's like, why are you going to make an Aquaman show without Aquaman? No one cares. I'm sorry.
No.
Like, you're not Gotham. Sorry, we're closed. Good luck next time.
It's the money. Show me the money.
Just give us Penguin.
My last point.
So watch the shit out of that.
100%. I think my last point I just want to say is I think the detective story stuff in this so well written. I think the pacing could have been a little bit snappier, but the way that's got, it's this guy and there's this person and this one's corrupt and they're secretly working for this and who's the rat and the whole connecting the dots. It's the bet, like, I know Dark Knight, we always say that's a detective story, but this is like a real detective story. It's a detective story first. It's a superhero movie like third. Like it's just not what you'd expect. Look, I love Matt Reeves. I know you complimented him some stuff earlier, but he made me give a shit about Planet of the Apes. That's how good he is. I always thought Planet of the Apes was the dumbest franchise. That was ridiculous. But when I saw the two he did, I was blown away. Like there are not many directors like him that can do a blockbuster that still feels like it's by a visionary. It doesn't feel like it's on a conveyor belt when he does one. So shouts to him. His voice is very strong in this. And look, masterpiece is a strong word to throw out there, so I'm not going to say it, but it's very, very good. I was very happy with it. And but here's my concern. I don't know how the fuck they do a sequel. Like,
why?
I know there's a lot of characters that can go into, because they can definitely do a sequel. It's easy to do a sequel, but how are they going to do one that's going to be as interesting from the detective story perspective? Because every good story, you got two journeys: your physical journey and your metaphysical journey, right? Physical journey is easy. Maybe the villain is Calendar Man. He's killing people based on the dates, or it's Hush.
That would be cool.
Go into the reporter storyline. Or maybe you got, I don't know, fucking Mr. Freeze, and he's freezing people and they're finding frozen bodies showing up. That's easy to write. Easy peasy, break it in a day, we're done. But then how do you do what I was talking about before by tying to Bruce? How do you do that stuff? You could do something like, there's the Court of Owls, which that storyline in the comics really goes into his parrots and stuff. But like, I feel like they've already touched on that in this film. And I feel like they've already sort of touched on the history of that. So whatever they do moving forward, I just want them to keep up with this broken Batman. And I want them to tie whatever happens into him. Because the best heroes are the ones where they make their own villains. Like Iron Man's villains are using his tech and he's trying to stop them because he regrets that, or something like that. So I hope they keep doing that. So I'm hoping we see more Bruce Wayne. And
yeah, me too.
Yeah, but
I'm definitely not opposed to a
one.
sequel. Just like that would be cool to see something more emotionally in depth that we have not seen before in any Batman films.
Yeah. And you know what? Make it shorter. It could have been a little bit shorter. I loved it, but no movie needs to be 3 hours. You could have done it shorter.